My name is Amy, and I'm a 34-year-old art conservator. I live on an island called Garrick's 8, which is located in southwest London in the middle of the River Thames. The island is home to 22 houses and is named after the 18th century actor David Garrick. 8 years ago, I made an impulsive decision to move to the island after being priced out of the rental market in nearby Kingston upon Thames. The reason this was such a crazy decision is because the island has no land access and can only be reached by boat. I live with my 2 cats, Rambo and Anakin, as well as my dog Lemon. You may think that island life is all sunsets, kayaking and cocktails, but the realities of dealing with Mother Nature, temperamental boat engines and the local wildlife always keeps you on your toes. Join me on this adventure as I renovate my house and garden, learn more than I ever thought there was to know about boating life on the Thames, and jump feet first into all the new experiences coming my way. Welcome to my island life.
Hi everyone, I thought we would start with a bit of a history lesson today. So an 8 or an eot is a small island specifically located within the River Thames. These islands are created by build-ups of sediment over a long period of time, and if protected by vegetation or secured, then they form islands. And if not protected, then they just erode and the sediment continues down the river. So how did Garrick's 8 come to be? If we journey back in time to the end of the 1700s, the riverbank on the Molesey-Sunbury Reach was notorious amongst barge masters whenever it was marshy, and equally when it dried out, as there were several shoals, a shoal being a sandbank or a sandbar, and lots of mudflats, which caused huge difficulties for the river navigation. There were no locks until 1815, so the river could be really low in drought conditions, or when it was wet, the towpath could completely disappear under the water. There was a long dispute about what to do, who would pay, to improve navigation between the upstream Thames and London, especially for cargo along the River Wey and its towns and industries in Surrey. In 1805, several proposals went to Parliament. However, it was decided in the end to cut a good channel all along the Surrey bank. This was carried out by the Corporation of the City of London, creating the Molesey Lock, which opened in 1815 to control water levels. The material dredged from the river was deposited on islands and on the Surrey bank to raise the level of the land for a dry towpath. That work created permanent, stable 8s. If you're interested in finding out more about the history of the Thames, there's a really brilliant website called the Panorama of the Thames Project, which I'll link to under this video. In upcoming episodes, I'll explore a bit more about the history of the island, how it's secured, how we have services here, and also a little bit about the history of islands surrounding it and landmarks either side of the river.
As you can see, it is finally a sunny, dry day, so I am taking the time to do some outdoor work. As you can see, I've got all the deck boards behind me. One of the things I really need to do before I can cut them and install them is to give them a clean, and also I've seen some of them have some old screws and things still in them, so I want to remove all of those. So I've got a couple of stiff kind of scrubbing brushes, gardening gloves to protect my hands. I don't want to stab myself with screws, like it's probably likely to happen. So I'm going to stack them up, brush them all off, and get them all ready to be used, hopefully very soon. I need to remove all the screws from the deck boards. So I've gathered up some tools, hammer, pliers, screwdriver with lots of different head attachments, and a chisel for hopefully bending and prying. So let's see how this goes. So I've now removed all the screws from almost all the deck boards. It sort of followed my life philosophy of it's a bit like making pancakes. The first couple are a bit of a faff and they don't usually turn out as great, and then you sort of figure out what you're doing and the rest of them go really smoothly. The last deck board, of course, it's always the last, has a screw that just won't come out, and it was either going to be that I ended up ruining the deck board or losing a finger. So I decided to put that one aside, and I might keep it just as a spare piece and not use that end of deck board if I need it. So after so much rain in the last couple of days, my mooring is pretty flooded. Thank goodness I've got the raised area. So this is an interesting problem. The water has risen so much that the boat has gone up, but my rope that has kept it tied onto my mooring is like really taut because it's obviously the boat's kind of pulling it up. There's no slack for me to unclip it. So I'm not really quite sure how I'm going to unmoor my boat to take the dog for a walk, who is very impatiently waiting. Yeah, bit of problem solving. As usual, it's neighbour Bob to the rescue. Luckily, he poked his head over the fence as I was sort of standing there thinking, I'm just going to have to wait for the water levels to go down, which could be all day. And luckily, he suggested that maybe I just needed a ballast. So I asked him if he wanted to be a ballast, a Bob ballast, and he whipped right over, and him standing on it and me standing on it was able to tilt the boat down enough to loosen the rope for me to be able to detach it. Thank goodness. But how do you access the other houses? A lot of people ask me how I visit my neighbours. The front of each island house faces outwards towards the river, while the rear of the house sits in the middle of the island. Although polite to always approach the front door of your neighbour's house, sometimes getting on the boat to go next door just isn't convenient. There's a communal path that runs along the length of the island in between the houses, and most people have either a back door or side access to the path. This comes in handy when needing to borrow a cup of sugar, carrying out Halloween trick-or-treating, or staggering home after having had too much to drink at an island house party. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time!